Yeah, Saturday, dance all night. Hit the horn, baby. What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing here? Am I echoing? There we go. I fixed it. It is Saturday. Damn it, we made it. And we're having such an electric time. I can't wait to get into this board. It is GunzPicks. It is the Breakin Ankles show. I am the host with the most, the point guard of podcast in the absolute CBB GOAT, self-proclaimed, of course. And we are just dominating the board lately. If you've been watching the picks, if you've been following along, we're up 14.7 units since the inception of the GunzPicks channel. And I can't be more excited. I can't be more elated with what's going on. However, you got to stay humble. You got to move forward. And you got to keep bringing the heat to maintain this this wave that we're on right now. Michael, always in the chat, said, what's going on? What's going on, Michael? It is a beautiful Saturday. Well, weather-wise, it ain't beautiful here. However, it is beautiful as far as college basketball all day long. Great picks last night. Yes, sir. Let's talk about what we did last night. 5-1, 6 plays, 6 bangers, 5-1, plus 6.35 units that I gave out yesterday. If you were watching here on YouTube, you watching on Instagram, you watching on whatever, on Twitter, X, whatever you call it now, we dominated. We absolutely crushed it. And we're going to do it one more time. I got 5 plays for you for the early slate. And, of course, I'll be back 7:30 p.m. tonight with the late night bangers to give you a little bit more action. All right? So many games and so much money to be made. That's right. We're here to make profit. Hit the yeah. Yeah. And I got to say this. We got a bunch of you beautiful bastards watching me live here on a Saturday morning. I appreciate you taking the time to do so. Please like and subscribe to the GunzPicks YouTube channel. You know, hit the bell, hit the subscribe button, hit this thumbs up like this so I can stay in the algorithm of all algorithms that YouTube has created. And I'm trying to get to be the most dominant, the most electric, the most efficient sports handicapper on the planet. And the way you do that is you got to get me in the algorithms. Hit the thumbs up while you're watching this video. All right, let's get into the plays. Let's start with a noontime game here. We're going to McCamish Pavilion here in Atlanta, Georgia. 12 p.m. is the tip. It is Florida State. It is Georgia Tech here, and I'm going with the away favorite on this one. Give me Florida State here. The Seminoles, as I take this hat off, and I put the bye hat on for the Seminoles. Dun, 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 dun. I think that's USC, maybe. I can't remember we're going Seminoles here. Florida State. -3, 2.5, 2 unit play on this one. Let me tell you why. Florida State's offense, 103rd in offensive efficiency, 175th in field goal percentage, 193rd in offensive rebounding. Not a great free throw shooting team. I am a little bit nervous about that when they're 285th in the country, but they're going against a Georgia Tech team that isn't good at all. 142nd in defensive efficiency, 77th in defending shots, 194th in defensive rebounds. On the offensive side of the ball, they're about 148th in offensive efficiency. They don't make shots very well. They're 271st in the country in field goal percentage. And they're bad on the free throw line themselves. 261st in free throw percentage in the country. And they're going against an FSU defense that's pretty efficient. 57th in the country in defensive efficiency, 27th in creating turnovers, 49th in blocks, 14th in steals. So if Florida State can get turnovers in this game versus this Georgia Tech team and turn them into points, that is going to be the key to us covering this spread. Then you got Georgia Tech coming off a nice road win themselves, highs of highs, right? They were 9-point dogs on the road versus Miami and won that game outright. They've won 2 out of the last 3 games straight up, and they're 3-1 ATS in the last 4. So due for probably a little bit of regression when you look at Georgia Tech. On the Florida State is also off a win themselves, beating NC State, but they've won 2 out of their last 3, 2-1 ATS in that span, and covering both as a favorite. That's key on this one. When they're short favorites on this one, Florida State does excel. I'll get to those stats in a second. And with Georgia Tech, great covering team on the road, but they're 2-7 ATS at home in their last 9 home games. So this is one of those teams that doesn't play well, underperforms in their own gym, but gets up and plays well on the road, probably because they're such big dogs on the road and the numbers are overinflated. Florida State, 4-4 straight up, 5-3 ATS versus conference opponents on the road this season. They're 5-0 straight up NATS when they're a favorite of 4 points or less. They're sitting here at 3.5 right now, so it's the perfect number when you're dealing with FSU because consistently they hit in these spots over the season. Then FSU did beat Georgia Tech at home, 82-71, as 4-point favorites at home, and the line is virtually identical. 3.5s are out there now. Usually, if you with a home team, you should see a line fluctuation from game A to game B, but you don't with Florida State. Probably the reason is Georgia Tech just absolutely terrible at home. And when you look at FSU versus Georgia Tech, they've covered the last 3 meetings as well. So all boxes checked on this one. Give me Florida State -3, 2-unit banger, baby. Hit the gun. Peter in the chat says, guns fire and smoke in the books. Hey, guys, if you're watching this live, get into the chat. You can chat on Twitter. I can see those. You can chat on YouTube. Wherever you want to go chat here. Biggie Rock in the building says, what do you think about Wisconsin? I will talk about that game in a second. Stay with me if you can. I do have an opinion on that one. All right, let's go into the next game on the board. Let's go to the Big 12 action, right? We have Kansas versus Baylor. Foster Pavilion, Waco, Texas, 1 p.m. East. Remember what I did last time with Baylor? I took them at home versus Houston, and they took them into overtime, lost the game on this one. But I think in this situation, I'm running it back. I'm back on my BS, and I'm going to run it with the Baylor Bears one more time. Grab the hat. We're rocking it. I look like a John Deere hat here, but I'm going to go Baylor Bears on this one, -5.5, 2-unit play. You have to ask yourself, why is Baylor such a big favorite versus this Kansas team? Well, guess what? I'm going to tell you why. You look at the stats on these two teams from KenPom perspective. Kansas offense is 46th in offensive efficiency, and they're going against a Baylor defense that's 60th in defensive efficiency. You look at the free throw percentage for Kansas, they're 174th in free throw percentage. So not a great free throw shooting team. They're not a great rebounding team either, 287th in offensive rebounds. But when you look at a Baylor offense, they're one of the most efficient offenses in the country. So I think the game is going to be decided between this Kansas defense, which is a great defense. I'll get to their numbers in a second, versus this Baylor offense. Baylor, 5th in offensive efficiency, 14th in field goal percentage, 23rd in offensive rebounding. They're second in the country in three-point percentage, and they're 102nd in the country in free throw percentage. And they're going against a defense for Kansas that's 9th in defensive efficiency, 31st in defending shots, and 63rd in defensive rebounding. But this Baylor team has done very well versus good defensive efficient teams. They did well against Houston. They did well against Iowa State. So they're in these positions. They're comfortable going against good defenses. Also got to look at Baylor off a rebound win. They just beat TCU. After back-to-back losses to BYU and Houston in overtime. Now they're back home on the first leg of a back-to-back home stretch. So this is a key spot to get right here and get motivated before they get into their conference tournament. And then you got to look at Kansas coming into a road spot off a home loss. They just got absolutely demolished in the second half versus Baylor. They lost the half 47-33, had a 6-point lead at halftime, and then they just fell apart. Then you got to look at the numbers with home versus road splits for both of these teams. Baylor's offense averages 86.2 points per game at home versus 75.5 points per game on the road. Baylor's defense allows 67.2 points per game at home, but they allow 74.6 points per game on the road. So you have a better team here at home with Baylor. Kansas, on the other hand, 72.9 points per game on the road on the offensive side, but 79.2 points per game at home. So there is a regression there for Kansas once they go travel. They also allow 72.3 points per game on the road versus 65.1 points per game at home. So there is a complete regression there on both sides of the ball, on the offensive and the defensive side for Kansas. Then you got to look 3-5 straight up, 2-6 ATS on the road this season. So the numbers correlate to what their statistics are giving you. And these two teams did meet on February 10th. Kansas did win the game at home, 64-61 as 5.5-point home favorites. Now they're 5.5-point dogs on the road. A 10-point swing in the line. I mean, you have to look at these numbers and go, okay, they're telling a story here. Then Baylor's covered 3 out of the last 4 versus Kansas as well. So with all that being said, I think Baylor is just due for a great home win. They're in a revenge spot versus Kansas. The line correlation is telling you this is Baylor blowout all over it. So we're going to run with it. Give me Baylor here, -5.5, 2-unit banger, baby. Back to the chat. Michael says, yep, Baylor about to smack Kansas. Oh yeah, this is going to be a double-digit victory. I think this is one of those ones we could kick our feet up and be like, yeah, Baylor just. I mean, Baylor just due to have like a complete, utter offensive juggernaut swing. I didn't think they did well against Houston. First half, they came back in the second half in that game. It's going to be a different story here with Kansas. Sox Nation always in the chat, always chatting it up with the boys. Guns, I want to say to you, we're right, and I was wrong about Dayton game. Hey, you know what? You can have an opinion on a game. You can state whatever you want. I give you the statistics here, and you can make the decision based on if I like the game, you can tail it, or you just go, you know what? I trust my statistics. Whatever the case may be, I just thought that Loyola was in the perfect spot on that Friday, and we were successful. 60% of the time it works every time, though. So I could be wrong too. Does happen. Peter, Guns knows the line says so. Hit the yeah. Take a sip of the potion. All right, let's go to the next game on the board. And of course, I want to get back to what Biggie Rock was saying. He goes, what do you think about Wisconsin money line? Well, I'm going to talk about that game right now. Illinois versus Wisconsin, Kohl Center, Madison, Wisconsin, 1 p.m. tip. And when you look at this game, you're thinking to yourself, what do you have? You have a ranked dog, road dog, versus an unranked favorite. And you know what I do in these situations? I always roll with the favorite on this one. I'm going to do it here. Once again, give me Wisconsin minus 2.5, 2-unit banger on this one. Breaking down the statistics, Illinois' offense is one of the best in the country. Third in offensive efficiency, 42nd in field goal percentage, 17th in offensive rebounding, 93rd on the free throw line. But they're going against a pretty good defense with Wisconsin, 54th in defensive efficiency, 11th in defensive rebounding, and 140th in the country in allowing opponents to the free throw line. But they're playing at home. This is where Wisconsin's numbers are a little bit diluted and saturated just on the fact that when they get on the road, they're just a way different team, and they're absolutely awful. On the offensive side here for Wisconsin, 17th in offensive efficiency, 109th in field goal percentage, 121st in offensive rebounding, but they're pretty decent on the free throw line themselves, 35th in the country on the free throw line. On the defensive side, they're going against an Illinois defense that's 95th in defensive efficiency, 45th in defending shots, 54th in defensive rebounding. But I think when you look at these numbers in terms of what Illinois gives up on the road in scoring, which I'll get to in a second, is going to tell a little bit different story than what the efficient statistics are. Illinois' road stats offensively, they put up 86.2 points per game versus 83.5 points per game at home. They actually put up more points on the road than they do at home. However, there is a reason for that because Illinois' defense allows 81 points per game on the road versus 67.6 points per game at home. They give up a ton of points when they get on the road. So they're always clawing back, and this team is third in the country in offensive efficiency. It's probably because of the fact that they have to score points on the road when they have a bad defense that doesn't show up when they travel. Then you got to look at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a home team. When you see them at home, that's where they play their best. They put up 78.2 points per game at home, 69.5 points per game on the road, and they only allow 67.2 points per game at home versus 71 points per game on the road. So you see a correlation there. Wisconsin, just a better home team. And they need a win. They have 10 losses here. They got to build a resume to get in this NCAA tournament. I think this team is completely on the bubble. And if you've actually checked how they've done recently, they've lost 6 out of the last 8 games. They're 0-8 ATS. They're on an 0-8 ATS run. And they're favored versus a ranked opponent. That's a story here, right? But Wisconsin at home, 13-2 straight up at home. Their only losses were to Tennessee and Purdue, 7-1 straight up versus conference opponents. Okay. When you look at those losses, the 6 out of 8 losses on this one as well, 5 of those were on the road. The team's not a good road team. Their only other home loss was to Purdue. I mean, Purdue, last time I checked, pretty decent team. Might be in the best team in the country other than, Houston. I'm trying to think of others here, but, but what I'm saying here is losing to Purdue at home is not a bad loss. It's just a loss to a great team. So with all that being said, I just think Wisconsin is hungry for a win. They got 10 losses. They've lost 6 out of the last 8. They are back home. They're 2-1 in that span at home, and they're playing an Illinois team that, quite frankly, I think regresses at home, especially on the road on the defensive side of the ball, and Wisconsin's going to take advantage of that with being the 17th offensive efficient offense in the country. Give me Wisconsin. Give me the Badgers minus 2.5, 2-unit banger, baby. Hopefully I gave you the stats there, Biggie Rock. Let's talk to the chat. Actually, kind of like Illinois, these ranked, unranked spots have been hitting quite not as much. Whiskey has been playing like ass. Illinois has been really good on the road. No bet for me. Listen, I understand that. I just think when you got teams with their back against the wall that needing wins. Those teams I like to back a little bit. Granted, I just gave you the stats. 0-8 in their last 8 games for Wisconsin. But in their home splits, they've had 3 home games in their last 9 games, which is this regression period that they've been going through, and they've won 2 of them. And this is a short line. We're not talking about -6, -7, -8, which is typically what you get from Wisconsin at home. Illinois, you're basically just trying to pick a winner here. I think Wisconsin just gets it done. Don't necessarily trust Illinois in these single-digit short dog situations on the road. And I'm gonna roll with it here. Sox Nation says, "What about the over?" Love the over on this one too. I'm actually gonna make that a personal play. I haven't made it official on the show, but that was one that I looked at too. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game, knowing that Illinois' defense is so bad. Wisconsin's just due for a big scoring effect, and they can do it at Kohl Center. Yeah, over on this one. Love it there, Sox Nation. Peter says, Wisconsin bubble team. Yes, hungry too. I get it, but I think they like I said, Wisconsin's just going to get it done today. I don't have to talk about this game anymore. Let's go to the next game of the board here. Let's talk a little Big East action as I take a sip. We got Marquette and Creighton playing each other here. Chi Health Center, Omaha, Nebraska, 2:30 p.m. tip. And this line is just moving like crazy. I bought it last night at 4.5. It's now moved up to 6, 6.5. I'm seeing out there. I haven't checked it before the show, but this morning I saw it at 6. I'm gonna just say I'm gonna give it out at 6, even though I got it at 4.5. Give it to me here. Creighton's gonna get it done here at home. Listen, Marquette's offense is one of the best in the country. 21st in offensive efficiency, 16th in field goal percentage, but they're not that great on the free throw line. 182nd in the country in free throw percentage, but they're going against a great Creighton defense. 23rd in defensive efficiency, 12th in field goal percentage, 42nd in defensive rebounding, and number 1 in the country in not allowing opponents to get to the free throw line. So they're very disciplined. They don't make a lot of fouls, and they're not getting you into the bonus and the bonus plus situations in the games. Then the Creighton offense is pretty decent themselves. 11th in offensive efficiency, 3rd in field goal percentage, 21st in free throw percentage, and they don't turn over the ball a lot. But they're going against a good defense. I'll give it that with Marquette. 15th in defensive efficiency, 109th in defending shots, 268th in defensive rebounding. That could be a problem for them. But they're pretty good and they're ball hungry. 12th in turnover percentage on that defensive side there for Marquette. Then you got to look at the production on the road, okay? On the offensive side of the ball, they only put up 73.2 points per game of offense, but they versus what they do at home, which is 85 points per game at home. So there is a complete regression on the offensive side for Marquette when they travel. On the defensive side of the ball, they allow 71.5 points per game on the road versus 66.1 points per game at home. So another regressional spot here for Marquette on both sides of the ball. This team just doesn't want to travel, and their numbers regress once they get outside of their gym. Creighton on the production side for the offense at home, 86.3 points per game at home versus 75.1 points per game on the road. Another team that doesn't travel, but they're playing at home today, so we love Creighton. Defensively, 68.5 points per game given up to opponents at home versus 70.2 points per game on the road. Not much of a regression or not much of an advantage there on the defensive side, but I think when you look at this offense versus this regressing defense in Marquette, Creighton's going to have plenty of opportunities to score points in this one. Then, of course, we got the revenge factor, right? Creighton lost to Marquette 72-67 as 4-point road dogs. Now the line is completely flipped the other direction into, I don't know, what's this thing going to be, -10 by the start of the game? I got it at 4.5 last night. Like I said, I'm seeing sixes. I'm seeing 6.5s on the board right now. Trying to find the game here. 2:30 game. We're looking at this tip. Let's look at Creighton right now. If anybody could pick the line, that would help. A lot of games here today. I'm seeing 7.5s hitting right now. 6.5s. You can still find sixes here on offshore books, but this line is just crazy. Get it now because it's not going to get any better. But with all that being said, I just think that this is one of those spots that we got to be taking Creighton. Also, you got to look at this fact: 7-1 straight up in their last 8 games for Creighton, and they've covered their last 3. And also, this is the largest spread that Marquette has seen as a dog since playing UConn. And when you remember that game, Marquette lost that game 81-53. So in these spots, when they're heavy dogs, Marquette just absolutely gets demolished. And then, of course, what's next for Marquette? Are they looking ahead at this game? Marquette has a huge game next week. Guess who they have to play? They have to play UConn at home, a revenge game. I think there's a good spot to take Marquette in the next game, but we're going to be taking Creighton here, fading Marquette as a big dog. Creighton, -4.5, -6, whatever the line is. They're going to win by double digits on this one, but give me Creighton all day long. 2-unit banger, baby. Yeah, Sox Nation says best guard might be out. That's probably what it is. I didn't check the injury report on this one, but like I said, I grabbed it overnight, regardless of who was going to play in that game, and I still think it's a Creighton line altogether. But like I said, you got to grab it now. It's just, I mean, the more you wait before tip, you're just going to lose value on this one. It looks like Michael's got an update on this one. Who is out for Marquette? Is that Tyler Kolek? I don't know. I have to look at the injury chart on that one. EQ in the building says, bang, bang. Give him a couple guns on that one. That's right. We're reloaded. We are making money plus 14.7 units since the inception of the GunzPicks channel. If you're following along, like and subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff that you do with YouTube so I can grow this channel to the rafters. All right. Of course, I can't leave you without one more play. And of course, without further ado, we give you my best bet of the early slate. Let's go! That's right. And we're going to be going to Charlotte, North Carolina. Halton Arena is the spot where my best bet exists. 4 p.m. tip. It's South Florida. It's Charlotte. And guess who I'm taking on this one? I'm taking the home favorite, the unranked home favorite versus the ranked away dog. Once again, give me Charlotte -3.5 on this one. 2-unit banger. Charlotte, offense, 108th in offensive efficiency, 76 on the free throw line, 285th in offensive rebound, but they're going against the defense for South Florida, 78th in defensive efficiency, 267th in defensive rebounds, and they're 212th in the country in allowing opponents to the free throw line. So they do make mistakes. They're not as disciplined as you think on the defensive side. They are aggressive, I'll give you that, but they allow opponents to get to the free throw line. But the biggest split on this one you got to look at is the home and versus away stats here. So Charlotte at home, 72.2 points per game at home, but they only put up 64.9 points per game on the road. On the defensive side of the ball, they allow 61.8 points per game at home to their opponents, but 69.9 points per game on the road. They are 27th in the country in allowing defensive scoring. So this is a Charlotte team that defensively is their strength, their success, and they get it done, especially at home. UCF on the USF, I should say, South Florida on the other side of the ball, 69.3 points per game scored on the road versus 78.9 points per game at home. So another team, when they travel, they regress significantly, especially on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side, for South Florida, 67.8 points per game on the road versus 68.9 points per game at home. They're 69th in the country in defensive scoring. Not much of a regression on the defensive side. However, I think on the offensive side, when you look at South Florida, if you watch any of these games, when they play on Sundays at home, they're absolutely electric gym. They shoot the lights out and make shots, but on the road, it's a different story. But then you got the revenge factor, right? Charlotte lost to South Florida on the road, 72-69 as 2-point dogs. Now you're seeing the line here at 4.5-point favorites for Charlotte. I did find 3.5 on FanDuel before the show, so the lines do exist. I'm seeing 4s, 4.5s right now if you're looking at the board. So go grab that line now. I still like it at the number it's at currently. Charlotte also at home, 8-2 straight up, 7-1 ATS versus conference opponents at home this season. So this team does excel at home. South Florida has won 6 straight road games. I'll give you that. They've done where credit is due for them doing that, but they're 4-5 ATS on the road overall this season. And then you just got South Florida just running way too hot, playing well. 4 out of the last 6 games were at home, though. However, 2 road games were versus bad teams, Rice and UTSA. So when you look at those numbers, you're like, okay, we know South Florida plays well at home, and majority of those games in that sample size in their recent 6 were in their own gym versus great teams. I mean, they beat up FAU, for example, just getting the job done there. However, this is their first big road test in their last 8 games. So if anything, I think South Florida has got their back against the wall and are probably in trouble versus this Charlotte team. And like I said, ranked road dog versus an unranked home favorite scenario. I'd love taking advantage of these things. Granted, Michael hates these scenarios apparently with Wisconsin and Illinois. However, I think Charlotte's in a better position here, and this is why it's my best bet of the day. Give me Charlotte minus 3.5, 2-unit banger, baby. My man Goose in the building says, what do you think about the Auburn game? Haven't really looked at that one. I think I glanced at it before the show and I just passed on it. I'm trying to pull it up now, looking at the numbers. Bear with me here. You can tell I haven't looked at this one. If it's a later game, then I probably haven't looked at it. I guess right now I don't have an opinion on it. I may have one later. Just hit me in the DMs. I'll try to look at it later. But I've only looked at these 5 games, and this is the ones that I like. I looked at a couple other games. I tried to look at NC State and North Carolina and a couple of these mid-major spots, but really didn't find anything else on the board for the early slate. But these are the 5 games that we think. Like, listen, we're on a 5-1 run right now from Friday. We went 4-2 on Thursday. So we're cooking with absolute napalm right now. We've been absolutely cooking since the inception of the show on February 14th is when we started. We're getting into March. We're getting into where the money is made. And I can't wait to finish off this regular season and get into conference play. And then, of course, the NCAA tournament after that. But to recap for the show, here are the picks for the early slate. Get a pen, get a paper. All right. Florida State, -3. We're going to go Baylor -5.5 versus Kansas at home. We're going to go Wisconsin -2.5 versus Illinois. We're going to go Creighton -4.5, -6, whatever the number you can get right now. Creighton's going to dominate in this game versus Marquette. And then we're going to finish off with the best bet, Charlotte -3.5, and those are all 2-unit bangers. We're increasing the unit size on this one because the data is there, and I'm feeling confident as all hell that we're just going to dominate on this beautiful Saturday. Peter always giving the thanks. Let's get that money, baby. Hit the horn. But that's going to do it for the morning edition of the Breakin' Ankle Show. I will be back 7:30 for the late night bangers, and we'll bring some more picks to the table. But what we need to do is focus, get locked in, and let's cash some tickets. Let's dominate the board. And as always, let's keep dancing. Kabang!